What's going on, traders? Starting the forecast off with the US dollar index, the DXY. You can see in the daily chart here, we had a beautiful daily downward trend line, and we recently broke above the trend line, and we have seen nothing but 1, 2, 3, 4 days of green on the DXY, and we are clearly pushing up. Where are we pushing up into? Well, in my opinion, we do have this semi-decent base drop daily supply zone at 104.01, and I think that is where we could see price push up to. And do I think we're gonna react off that supply zone? I kind of do. So I think that is the move we could see in the dollar. We could see continued strength this upcoming week. It doesn't mean just because I'm short-term bullish doesn't mean I'm long-term bullish, right? I am actually long-term bearish, and I'll explain why in a minute. But I do think we will be pushing up to this daily supply. Do I think we're just going to shoot up to there? No, it could take a couple weeks, but I think this is the near-term target at 104 at that daily area of supply. And why did we break that downward trend line? Well, what I think happened here is we broke below this low. A lot of these support resistance traders got stopped out. We pushed into this other area of support, and now we pushed up. Now, you guys know me, I don't trade support and resistance. I trade supply and demand. So what I think we will see is maybe that push up to that daily supply I was talking about, and then a reaction down to below the 99.5 area again to this fresh area of demand from back here. There's even a better one down below. Why do I think we are going to pull back down to there? Well, the answer to that is on the macro charts. So over here on the monthly chart, you can clearly see the demand and the supply zones. And we are definitely closer to the demand zone. This is about halfway. We are clearly more close to the demand zone. Yes, so far, pretty green candle for the month of October. But we are closer to demand, and I honestly think it wouldn't surprise me if we do push down to the 98.34 area, down at that monthly demand zone to fuel maybe for that bigger push up. So until this demand zone is hit, I'm going to have to remain kind of bearish on the DXY. It really all depends on what time frames you are looking at, but obviously supply and demand acts as a magnet, so I think it is possible we do hit either the supply or the demand. What I'll be looking for is actually more visible on the 4-hour chart. So on the 4-hour chart here, yes, we did break areas of supply. We did break downward trend lines. We are creating demand zones, and look, this is looking really strong. I agree, but it's straight up almost. So what I would be looking for here, I'm not going to be super bullish on the DXY until we can get a move like this where we push down, create some sort of valley, and then not only that, make a higher high. Because then at that point, we will have the ability to draw a clean looking upward trend line on the 4-hour time frame. Yes, it is looking bullish, but can this move be sustained? How the move will be sustained is if we get that higher high, a clear valley, and a clear trend. Right now, all this is momentum, and that's fine, but momentum is definitely different than trend, and it is possible we do pull back down to either one of these demand zones like this and react off of the zones like that, and then maybe get that push up. But if we do push down to here, break these demand zones like this, and we just continue to go down, maybe create a downtrend, then my bearishness remains. So for the time being, I am short-term bullish on the dollar to push up to that daily supply potentially, and the next thing I'm going to be looking for to see if I'm really bullish, again, is if we can create that nice upward trend line on the 4-hour chart on the DXY. And on to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. All ad revenue generated from these weekly Forex forecast videos is donated to my local hospice. We just did another donation, so every like helps, guys. Much appreciated. So on the weekly chart here of the Euro US dollar, just a reminder, we have an upward arrow here, which indicates the upward trend. So yes, look at this past week candle. It is really, really bearish. But look at the overall trend. That is what it's important to look at, guys. So on the daily chart here, it's more visible what is going on. We had a beautiful daily trend to the upside. Things were looking really, really great. And now we have pulled back. Where are we pulling back into? In my opinion, it is to this daily demand zone. It's not amazing, but we definitely could see a move off of the demand and maybe rally up to daily supply. So this move below the trend line here could just be a fake out, and there still is profit margin down to this daily demand at 1.09. It is possible we retrace down to this drop base rallied area down here. According to my chain analysis, I don't have this demand zone, but it is clearly a buying area. So really, I kind of doubt we push and break below. Let me just see the price of that down below that area of buying. I highly doubt we break below the 1.077 area, as I think we will either rally off this zone or push a little bit below and rally up to daily supply. So how do we go about and trade the euro at this time? Well, if you look on my two screens on the right side, this is my 4 hour, my 1 hour chart. You can see my arrows, they indicate we have downtrends. So what that means is day trading shorts on a 15-minute and a 5-minute time frame are both good as long as these trend lines are holding. And as far as a zone goes, a supply or demand zone, we do have this pretty decent drop-based drop supply at 1.10. It's not bad, and we clearly are maybe pushing back up to it right now. So a push up to this supply zone could be used for a potential short trade. And again, guys, if you don't feel comfortable with just an entry, a stop, and take profit below, that's okay. What you could do is use this 4 hour supply zone as your higher time frame. And I use my higher time frames as my weekly and my daily chart, but maybe you don't swing trade and you're a day trader. That's perfectly fine. Your higher time frame could be a 4 hour chart. So then if price pushes up to here, you could be looking for shorts on a 15-minute or a 5-minute time frame to trade to the downside and basically just narrow down your entries. So definitely have this 4 hour supply zone on your charts. And again, the profit margin would be to this nearest area of demand on the daily chart. So once we contact that, if you do get a short entry, I would look to maybe, take profits on at least 75% of your position, because I think it is possible due to the weekly trend that we do rally off of these lows and these daily buying areas on the euro US dollar. On to the forecast for gold XAUUSD. Last week we did point out this 4 hour demand zone right here. You can see from the weekly Forex forecast, and we reacted off of it beautifully. Came in for a second test, reacted off of it again. Now we are in for a third test below the trend line though. So I'm not loving this price action. We really wanted to see a new high formed. So due to the nature of this sideways price action, if we break this 4 hour demand zone, which is clearly a proven area of demand, what I think we will see is a retracement on the daily chart all the way back down to 2587. It's a beautiful rally base, rally demand zone that was responsible for breaking to all-time highs, and I welcome a pullback down to there because I will be looking for an entry down there. And even if we break this zone, that's fine. We have two daily demand zones even lower. So just a lot of quality areas of demand here on gold. It is longs all the way. Could you trade a short-term short? Yes, you could, but I would only recommend doing that on a 50-minute or a 5-minute and even a 1-minute time frame. Basically, just on day trading time frame shorts are fine. You don't really want to be shorting the strength of the higher time frames. Even on the weekly chart, look at how the power of this trend. Not only is it a trend, it's a lot of momentum as well. They are both, trend and momentum are completely different, and here we have both. So it's looking really, really strong. Again, all of your trading is going to revolve around this 4 hour demand zone. Could you be looking for longs off this demand? Yes. As a supply and demand trader, I don't like trading at tested areas like this, but it's looking strong, right? So the next big test is, will this trend line hold? Right now we are breaking below it, but it is holding so far, and if we start to push up again, then okay, then 15-minute time frame longs are good. But at this time, I would actually kind of hold off on gold at this time because we are in a tested area of demand. It's looking sideways. It's looking like we could get that break, and if we do, we will actually have a 4 hour downtrend, and then your 15-minute and 5-minute time frame shorts to trade down to the daily demand would be okay. So at this point, basically just monitoring this 4 hour time frame, see if we can break out of this sideways range. But at the end of the day, it is longs all the way on gold. Even if we do break that 4 hour demand zone, like I said, we have a ton of backs up demands in the daily chart. We can then look for longs off of those zones on gold. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. We will start with my 4 chart layout here. This is the 4 hour chart and the 1 hour chart. You can clearly see beautiful picture perfect trends to the upside on the USDJPY. I'm pretty excited about this pair, and here's why. So like I said, we have a beautiful 4 hour trend to the upside. It is looking really strong. So what that means is you could be looking for 15-minute time frame longs as long as this trend line's holding. A pullback down to this 4 hour demand, this rally base rally demand zone. It's a beautiful move away at 144.31. It's a good area to look for a long trade off of. So I really like that area, and we will be looking for trades off that zone from the daily market breakdown videos. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. plus dive deep with our full-length forecast covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links are in the description down below. And even here on the 1 hour time frame, I would focus more on that 4 hour demand zone, but as long as this 1 hour trend line here is being respected, what that means is 5 minute time frame longs are completely fine to look for on the USDJPY. And on the higher time frames, the daily and the weekly chart, looking at the weekly chart first, I've been talking about this weekly supply zone up here. It was looking unlikely that we would retrace up to there, but now after this week, where do you think we are headed? Well, I personally think we're headed up to this weekly supply zone. I think we easily could react off of that supply up there. I think it's definitely a good little zone, and I think that's where we are headed. Now, how do we know if we are going to actually retrace all the way up to that weekly supply zone? You need to be monitoring not only the 4 hour and the 1 hour trend. As long as those trends are continuing, then it's most likely we will be pulling back up to that weekly zone. Not only that, on the daily chart here, we have this proven area of daily supply, drop base drop. Go back to August. You can see we clearly pointed out this drop base drop supply zone. Beautiful trade off that daily supply. Go back to my forecast in August. You can see the evidence of that. And not only we've already reacted off of it once, we are coming back in for a second test. So this is a proven area of daily supply. If we break this supply, I think we could be headed up to that weekly supply zone. But we will have this drop base drop daily supply at 152.70 to get through first. So I think we could hesitate around there and then eventually rally up. So we have to be careful looking for longs at this point because this supply is in control. But since it's tested, I don't mind, like I said, looking for longs as long as these trends are holding on the 4 hour chart. And again, 15-minute time frame longs are good, 5-minute time frame longs are good, and pullbacks down to that 4 hour demand zone is also good on the USDJPY. And again, monitor that daily supply zone. If we break it, all signs are pointing to the upside, at least to the 152.70 area. And then if we break that, then all signs are pointing up to that weekly supply zone. On to the forecast for the British pound, and in the comments down below, let me know your thoughts on the pound. Where do you think this is going? Do you think this is just a fake out below the trend line, or do you think we are headed lower? Let me share my thoughts on the pound. We have a beautiful trend line to the upside in the daily chart. We recently just broke this daily trend line. So now I think this is what I like to call evidence to suggest we could be pulling back. So we then have to ask ourselves, where are we pulling back into? Well, I've pointed out this drop base rally weekly demand zone I've been talking about for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks almost, and I welcome a pullback down to there. I think it's a beautiful area to look for a potential swing trade long at 1.28. You can even turn a day trade into a swing trade up down here and get a massive risk to reward. So I welcome a pullback down to there. Long-term profit margin on shorts is to this weekly demand zone. So how do we potentially trade down to there? Well, again, all shorts are counter trend to the higher time frames because we do have a weekly overall trend. It doesn't mean you can't catch moves to the downside, right? You can see, yes, the trend has been overall up, but we've seen moves to the downside here that you can catch, and this one's even bigger. So I am going to be pointing out some counter trend potential trading setups, and it's all going to be revolving around this 1 hour time frame here. As long as this 1 hour downward trend line's holding, guys, 5-minute time frame shorts are good. So if we hit the trend line, respect it, push down, that's okay. As long as there's a 5-minute time frame supply zone or whatever you trade, you could be day trading short as long as that trend line is holding. If we break the trend line, then at that point we need to hold off on shorts and then wait for this 1 hour supply to be contacted and look for shorts off of that at 1.32. And profit margin, like I said, is all the way down to that weekly demand zone. So just look at this here. Look at the bottom right chart, this 1 hour supply zone. If you take that setup and you trade it all the way down to the weekly demand zone, the profit margin is over a 10 to 1, 12 to 1. I'm not saying you're going to get that. I'm just saying the risk reward is well worth it, guys. Even if you hold 25% of your position, 12 to 1, it's a massive, massive trade. You're basically getting an extra 4 or 5% off of that trade. So since we've broken the daily upward trend line, and we have a 1 hour downtrend, that to me is enough evidence to suggest we could be retracing here in the pound all the way down to the weekly demand zone. Let me know your thoughts down below. On to the forecast for the USDCAD, my home country. Let me know where you're from in the comments down below. On the daily chart here, we clearly have pierced above the daily supply zone. I don't know if you guys can see it, but we did break above it. So I am going to remove that on my charts. However, the downward trend line is still being respected. It is piercing above it, but it is still being respected. And not only that, we will have a daily demand zone down below at 1.351. So it's a tricky one right now. With momentum to the upside, we could see a move down to this daily zone and a rally up. I'm going to be mostly pointing out zones on this chart, or basically looking at trends. So since we've broken above the trend line, we could be looking for longs. And honestly, since we've already got a move off this 4 hour zone, I don't really feel comfortable pointing out any zones at this point to the long side. But look, we have a beautiful 4 hour trend line. And as long as this trend line is being respected, I think looking for longs in a 15-minute time frame is good. And if you notice up here, we have a pretty good rally base drop supply zone. Look at the move away from this zone. Picture perfect move away. If you are bearish on the USDCAD and then on the US dollar, which I am long term, I think it's a great area to look for a potential short trade at 1.361. So you could be kind of playing both sides. I know a lot of people have given me a hard time. Oh, you just think it's going to go long or short? I don't. I'm just saying in the meantime, I think we could push up to supply. So you could be day trading up to 1.36. At that point, lock in your profits or tighten up your stop loss and just keep moving up your stop loss in case we do blast through the zone. At that point, we could be looking for shorts off of that 4 hour supply zone. I am overall bearish on the dollar, so I think it is likely we do react off that supply. But in the meantime, yeah, you could be day trading long this 4 hour time frame. And look, it's also possible maybe the dollar doesn't get weak until we push all the way up to this supply and then rally off that on the daily chart. So a lot of options here on the USDCAD. Let's say we do push up a lot and then we pull back down to this daily zone. That could be your signal to get in long for a potential swing trade up to daily supply and then react off of that like that. So I know there's a lot going on here in the USDCAD. I just like to point out both sides and what I think we could see play out and what's going to happen in the market here. So a little bit tricky, but honestly, be focused on the 4 hour trend line and the 4 hour supply zone, and I think you'll be fine. Looking at the forecast for the AUDUSD, just a reminder on the weekly chart, the trend and momentum is to the upside, but on the daily chart, unlike the euro and the pound, the trend line is actually still being respected here. So that's a positive sign on the Aussie. So I actually think this is one of the highest odds ones to potentially be looking for longs. It is possible, it's just a little bit different and we eventually do break it. But honestly, I think it's fine. I think it's a good looking trend line and it's clearly being respected. There's a couple options here. At this time, we have a beautiful 1 hour downtrend, and as long as this 1 hour downward trend line is holding, 5-minute time frame shorts are good. So make sure you guys draw this exact trend line because that is the proper way to draw a trend line. And yes, we are kind of getting a little bit away from it, so we could see retracement. We're already getting a move off the zone, maybe a push down like that. And where I think we are headed on the Aussie short term is to this 4 hour demand zone. It's a semi-decent drop base rally demand zone. What I like about it is the move away. If you look here, it's a beautiful move. Look at that move. Just picture perfect in my opinion. Yes, we have broken below the trend line, but that's okay. And like I said, with that 1 hour downward trend line, guys, we could be day trading short down to this 4 hour demand zone, and at that point lock in your profits on your shorts or bump your stop loss up, and just in case we do break the zone, at that point then we could switch to potential longs and try out that 4 hour demand zone like that. So it's a good little 4 hour zone down there. We could maybe get a swing trade off of it. Huge risk reward opportunity here, right? If you just take a look, if you were to trade for this zone all the way up to the high, over a 5-to-1 possible risk reward. So I think it's a good little risk reward ratio on that 4 hour zone. And the best thing about it is that it's with a weekly and a daily trend, guys. So I mean, why wouldn't you take a shot at that 4 hour zone? And honestly, if we break that zone, then I think maybe we have to rethink our whole position here on the Aussie and on the dollar as well. But again, not the best trading week, right? When I'm expecting the dollar to push down long term and we start to get a rally, it becomes really tricky to trade. That's why I'm mostly pointing out zones and trends at this time. So again, to recap, 1 hour downward trend line, 5-minute time frame shorts are good to trade down to this 4-hour zone, where then we could look for longs. On to the forecast for the USDCHF. Right away, I'm going to say there's not a whole lot of zones that I'm going to point out on the 4-hour or the 1 hour time frames, but what I will say is we clearly broke out of this range. If you just zoom out here for a second, we have been ranging for a pretty long time, and we recently broke out of that range to the upside. So I think it's possible we do retrace down to this area and rally up, but honestly, with a 4-hour trend, it's longs all the way on a 15-minute and a 5-minute time frame, because we have a 4-hour and a 1-hour trend to the upside. And honestly, I think it's possible we do retrace all the way up to this weekly supply. I've pointed out in the past, I never really said we would get there, because ignoring this green candle, it was looking like we were just going to continue to go down, break the low, but we failed to break the low, and now we are pushing up. So long-term profit margin up to 0.883. I'm not saying we're going to get all the way up to that zone, but that would be our long-term target. I'm not saying to hold a 5-minute time frame trade all the way up to there 100% of your position, but it might be time. Just looking at the profit margin, let's say you do ride the wave of this 4-hour and 1-hour trend, you get a beautiful 3-to-1 trade, and you're looking to take profit on a 15-minute time frame trade. Maybe take 75% of your trade off and see if we can get a move up to 0.88. I think it's definitely possible. And it's definitely possible we at minimum retrace to this daily supply that's been proven, supply at 0.87. We've already got a reaction off the supply zone right here. You can go back to the August forecast and check out that call out. But I think that's where we are headed next. And since it's tested, like I said, I think we could easily break through it. It's all going to revolve around the DXY as well. So we have to monitor, of course, the DXY to see what takes place, to see what the trends are on the US dollar index. But in the meantime, guys, beautiful 4-hour, 1-hour trend to the upside, recently broke out of a range. So honestly, if you're a day trader, you're in luck. I think longs all the way. Last but not least, we are on to crude oil. And if you guys are struggling with trading psychology, I highly recommend you check out my recent podcast interview with a fellow trader. We go in depth on trading psychology. Honestly, I think you guys will love it. Make sure to rate the podcast 5 stars. Available anywhere you get your podcast. Check it out. So as far as oil goes here, reminder, the overall trend to the downside in the higher time frames is down. So downward trend line on the weekly chart means that this retracement we're seeing could just be temporary. On the daily chart, we recently broke not only a daily supply zone that was already proven supply. You can go back to late September, we pointed out the supply zone as well. We actually broke a downward trend line as well. And there's really no daily supply that's fresh up here that we could see a reaction off of. So this is a tricky one. Honestly, at this point, we could be day trading long this the 1-hour trend line, looking really strong. So as long as this trend line is being respected, on the 1-hour chart, 5-minute time frame longs are good. And on the 4-hour chart, we are about to hit this 4-hour supply zone. So if you are bearish, and again, I'm really not based on the trends, this is the only area I would be looking for shorts personally at 76.50. I think maybe we only see a small move off of it, but it's a decent supply zone that broke demand and was responsible for breaking a low and creating a downward trend. So I think it could be a good zone, and who knows, maybe we even retrace all the way down to this 4-hour zone where I think it's a good buying opportunity at 68.14. And technically this 4-hour supply is with the overall higher time frame trend. Yes, on this time frame the trend is up, but it's important to remember the weekly trend is down. So all we're seeing, right, if you're just to do this is the weekly chart. All we are seeing is a temporary pullback. So this supply zone on the 4-hour chart, it could seem risky, but it technically is with the trend. And the profit margin, like I said, is all the way down to 68.14. That's over a 5-to-1 profit margin. So I think it's a good supply zone. We could look for shorts off of it. The higher odds thing to do would be to look for day trading confirmation to the short side in there, which means wait for shift of momentum to the downside in a 15-minute supply zone to trade inside of that. And you could also, tighten up your risk rewards. So you could be playing both supply and demand here on oil to potentially get a short and a long trade. But in the meantime, you could also be looking at this 1-hour trend line to the upside and continue to look for longs on a 5-minute time frame if you think price is going to go up. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.